Okay. So we are starting chapter 1 from Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Chapter 1, Asana. Verse 1. Salutations to the glorious primal original guru, Sri Adinath, who instructed the knowledge of Hatha Yoga, which shines forth as a stairway for those who wish to ascend to the highest stage of yoga, Raja Yoga. There's an illustration. Sri Adinath is one of the names given to Lord Shiva, who is supreme cosmic consciousness. In Tantra, there is the concept of Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is the eternal consciousness of the cosmos, and Shakti is his creative power. The cosmic consciousness or universal spirit is known by many names. In Samkhya philosophy, it is Purusha. In Vedanta, it is Brahman. The Shaivites call it Shiva. The Vaishnavites call it Vishnu. It is one and the same, and the original source from which creation and sentient become evolved. It is known that it is that power which resides in all. That force is known as the Guru because when the realization of its existence dawns, it takes one out of the darkness of ignorance into the light of reality. The Nath sect of yoga call it Adinath, primal master or protector. Swatmarama, the author of this text, belongs to the Nath sect. Therefore, he respects Shiva in the form of Adinath. All knowledge, without exception, emanates from the cosmic consciousness. Tantra and every branch of yoga come from that source, and traditionally, the expounder is known to be Shiva. Sanskrit scriptures always begin with salutations to the supreme state of being. However, the Avadhuta Gita, which is Vedantic in philosophy, gives another point of view. Dattatreya says, "How shall I salute the formless being? Indivisible, auspicious, and immutable, who fills all this with his self and also fills the self with his self. Shiva, the absolute, is ever without white and other colors. This effect and cause are also the supreme Shiva. I am thus the pure Shiva, devoid of all doubt. O beloved friend, how should I bow to my own self in myself?" Few people have reached this stage of evolution. Therefore, the first thing you must always remember before starting any spiritual practice is that the cosmic force is guiding all action and that you are the instrument of that force. In both the Orient and the Occident, the tradition is the same. First, you pay your respects, and then you ask for guidance. When little children pray at night, they first remember their parents and guardians, the ones who are protecting them. In the same way, the spiritual aspirant remembers his humble position in relation to the mighty cosmic force. In India, there is an ancient tradition of prostrating oneself before the Guru, whether one is worshiping his physical or cosmic form. This is done before undertaking any work so that the divine power can be evoked. It acts like a sankalpa or resolve, constantly reminding one of his ultimate goal and his purpose in life, to attain the same perfected state of being. Such salutations and prostrations are not just acknowledgement of the superiority of a higher being, but an act done in sincerity with pure motives, which involve offering one's whole being with love, faith, and devotion. This is called Shraddha. When Yogi Swatmarama salutes Adanath. He is acknowledging that the knowledge revealed in the forthcoming slokas is due to the glory of the Guru and not his own personal attainments. There, his humility, absence of ego or the sense of I. There is humility, absence of ego or the sense of I, and this is extremely important for attaining a higher state of consciousness. Yogi Swatmarama goes on to explain that Hatha Yoga is to be utilized as a means of preparing oneself for Raja Yoga, the supreme state of yoga. The word Hatha is made up of two Sanskrit roots, ha and the. Ha means sun and the means moon. This is symbolic of the twin energy forces which exist in everything. Hatha represents the forces of mind and prana or vitality which constitute the body and mind. The moon is the mental energy of chitta. It is the subtle force which is concerned with the mental layers. The pranic force is like the sun, dynamic and active. The two create the extremities of introversion and extroversion. It is the practice of Hatha Yoga which enables the fluctuation between these two energies to become harmonious and unified into one force. Does anyone want me to just pause for a second? Or keep reading? Okay. In the body, there are specific pathways for channeling these two forces. Just as in an electrical circuit, you have suitable wires for the conduction of positive, negative electrical energy currents. Similarly, there are energy channels within the structure of the body. These are known as nadis. Nad means flow. The mental energy travels along Ida Nadi, which governs the left side of the body. Pranic energy travels through Pingala Nadi, and this governs the right side of the body. The positive and negative effects of these energies have been equated to the parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. However, there is a definite relationship between nadis and the nervous system. They are not the same. If these two separate flowing energies, prana and chitta, can be unified, this creates a suitable condition for kundalini, or spiritual energy, to awaken and ascend through middle passage, Sushumna Nadi. Hatha Yoga is the process of establishing perfect physical, mental, emotional, and psychic equilibrium by manipulating the energies of the body. It is through Hatha Yoga that one prepares for the higher spiritual experience. One's whole being, starting from the physical body, has to be refined and strengthened so it can act as a medium for the higher cosmic force. The system of Hatha Yoga was, therefore, designed to transform the gross elements of the body so they can receive and transmit a much subtler and more powerful energy. If the body is not prepared for this higher form of energy, it would be like running 200 volts of electricity into a machine which only has the capacity to utilize 6 volts. The machine would definitely burn out. So Hatha Yoga systematically prepares the body, mind, and emotions so there will be no difficulties when the aspirant is undergoing higher states of consciousness. Traditionally, Hatha Yoga consisted of only 6 kriyas known as Shatkarmas. These were the practices of Duti, Basti, Neti, Trataka, Kapalaharti, and Nali. Later, Hatha Yoga also came to include asana, pranayama, mudra, and bandha, and the Shatkarmas were practiced afterwards by advanced practitioners. Through these practices, the consciousness can be raised without having to come into a direct confrontation with the mind. Through Hatha Yoga, you regulate the body's secretions, hormones, breath, brain waves, and prana. Then the mind automatically becomes harmonious. Hatha Yoga is the means, and Raja Yoga is the goal. Hatha Yoga is the stairway leading to Raja Yoga. Once the sadhaka reaches the stage of Raja Yoga, Hatha yoga ceases to be necessary for him. I just love this book so much. All right, I'll read on to verse 2. Prostrating first to the Guru, Yogi Swatmarama instructs the knowledge of Hatha Yoga only for Raja Yoga, the highest state of yoga. By first prostrating to the Guru, Yoga Swatmarama indicates that he is only a tool of transmission for the knowledge which is to be imparted. It is also emphasized that Hatha Yoga is to be practiced for the sole purpose of preparing oneself for the highest state of yoga, highest state of Raja Yoga. An example, Samadhi. Originally, a sadhaka practiced Hatha Yoga for many years to prepare himself for the awakening of Kundalini, or in terms of Raja Yoga, for the experience of Samadhi. However, in the last 50 years, with the revival of yoga in the West, it seems that the real aim of Hatha Yoga has been overlooked or even completely forgotten. Today, yoga is generally practiced to improve or restore health, to reduce stress, to prevent the body from aging, to build up the body, or to beautify it. Hatha Yoga does fulfill these objectives, but it should be kept in mind they are certainly not the goal. As one practices Hatha Yoga techniques, one's physical and mental potential begins to increase and unfold. We know that man utilizes only 1/10 of his total brain capacity, which means that 9/10 are lying dormant, waiting to be brought into action. Science calls the dormant brain the silent area. I just want to add in my little sense that there are some people who don't even use 1/10 of their brain. They use less. Anyway, little is known about its capacity, but neurologists say it is something to do with man's psychic capacity. After long and arduous practice of yoga, the psychic potential manifests, maybe in the form of clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, telekinesis, psychic healing, etc. These are called siddhis or perfections. Some people regard them as a grand achievement, but they are only temporary manifestations which can even hinder further spiritual progress. The goal of all yogic sadhana is to discover and experience the universal spirit within. And if siddhis are indulged in, they take away from the ultimate experience. Therefore, they are better ignored as they are not the desired fruit of Hatha Yoga. Although regular practice of Hatha Yoga can bring about many wonderful changes and desired results, it is essential to remember that they are only side effects. Hatha Yoga is not being taught for its own sake, for therapeutic purposes, or for gaining worldly or psychic powers. And this is something that Hatha Yoga practitioners should always keep in mind. Verse 3. The highest state of Raja Yoga is unknown due to misconceptions, darkness, created by varying ideas and concepts. In goodwill and as a blessing, Swatmarama offers light on Hatha Yoga. There is a proverb, many sages, many opinions. The highest goal in yoga is attainment of Kaivalya, the point at which Raja Yoga culminates. Ultimately, all spiritual practices and branches of yoga lead to that state, but there are as many ways of reaching the goal as there are individuals in the world. If we try to follow and believe that every path is applicable to ourselves, we will never attain the final experience. A person's individual method has to be systematic. Whether one practices karma yoga, bhakti yoga, kriya yoga, jnana yoga, Zen Buddhism, or a combination of a few varying techniques, One has to have an ordered system, and that system has to be followed from beginning to end, without diverging and trying other systems and gurus along the way. Believing in one system, following it for a while, and then leaving it for another leads nowhere. Yoga Swamarama offers Hatha Yoga so that people may be guided along an assured path. The word offers, or Kripakara, should be noted. Kripa means blessing, and a blessing can only be given by someone with spiritual attainment. It can be said that Hatha Yoga comes in the form of a saving grace to those who are stumbling into darkness. Swamarama is not preaching or propagating, but humbly showing a way which may be easier for the average person to follow in order to come closer to Raja Yoga. Verse 4, Yogi Matsyendranath knew the knowledge of Hatha Yoga. He gave it to Gorakhnath and others, and by the grace of the author, Swamarama learned it. In this and the next 4 verses, Yogi Swamarama shows the lineage of the cities of Hatha Yoga. Gorakhnath, who was probably the guru of Swamarama, belonged to a very popular yoga sect called the Nath Panth. Nath is the general term meaning master. Members of the Nath sect are commonly called Kanpatha yogis. Kanpatha means split-eared and refers to the yogi's unique practice of having the cartilage of the ears pierced for the insertion of huge earrings. It is believed that the Nath sect came into existence in the middle of the 7th century when the influence of the Tantra Shastras were prevalent all over India, and yoga was associated with black magic and sorcery. The Nath sect was established to save society from the heinous practices that were being carried out in the name of spirituality. There are many interesting stories about how the sect was originally formed. One common belief is that to prevent the decline of spirituality, Vishnu and Mahesh took the incarnations of Gorakhnath and Matsyendranath to propagate the message of yoga. Although Adanath, who heads the lineage of Naths, may be a yogi who preceded Matsyendranath, he is generally identified with Shiva, and with his name at the head of the list, this would indicate that the origins of the sect can be traced back to the greatest of yogis, Lord Shiva. According to the story in the Puranas, Lord Shiva was instructing Parvati into the secret sadhanas of yoga while standing on the seashore. A large fish overheard all that was said, and from this fish, the all-knowing Matsyendranath was born. Hence his name is Matsya Indra, or Lord of the Fish. There are also many stories concerning the birth of Gorakhnath. It is said that when Matsyendranath was begging for food as a parivrajaka, he met a woman who lamented to him her woe of not having a son. Matsyendranath gave her some siddhi vibhuti and told her that if she ate it, she would obtain a son. The woman did not eat the substance, but cast it upon a pile of cow dung. 12 years later, when Matsyendranath was passing through the same village, he called her to see the child. The woman told the yogi what she had done and asked to be taken to the spot where she had thrown the vibhuti. He called the name Garukdana, and immediately a radiant 12-year-old lad emerged from the pile of cow dung. Gorakhnath became the dutiful disciple of Matsyendranath and later became an expounder of Hatha Yoga and the founder of the Nath sect. He was an accomplished guru credited with the performance of many miracles. Members of the Nath sect were held in high esteem because of their severe penances, austere yogic lifestyle, and the accomplishments of many siddhis. The effect of the Nath yogis was felt right across the world. Great Nath yogis journeyed through Persia, Afghanistan, and the entire Middle and Far East. Their influence was felt all over India and Nepal, and particularly around Gorakhpur and the Nepalese border. Even to this day, Nath yogis can still be found in India, although few have the same reputation as the original masters. I think I will pause here and we can read verses 5 through 9 tomorrow.
What page are we finishing on?
Let me see. We
It's 33, I think. Page 33 is where you finished.
Okay, thank you.
Is that, wait a minute, is that true?
I guess because mine says 31, but I'm on the Kindle.
Oh, hold on.
Tatiana, are you using
No,
the
you're right, it's 31. It's 31. Sorry, I was skipping ahead.
It's chapter 1, verse 4 we finished. So we'll start verse 5 tomorrow.
Thank you.
I just find it, I just like keep laughing at myself over this book and how I thought it was going to be so scary just by the title. I judged the book by the cover and I'm just loving it so much.
Yeah, I find it very clear, and also I love the references to the stories and the fables that were intended to enlighten, and they're quite, it's very interesting.
And then like, so when you start learning the Sanskrit name of the yoga poses,
yeah,
it's like explaining some of, now it's like making sense to me, like why certain, like I already know what the one example. I mean, I know a few examples not in this book, but it's just, I just love it.
That should be very interesting as we move along, because, well, first, there's some teachers who almost never say the Sanskrit names. I love it when they say the Sanskrit and the English names together, because it gives it a better context for me.
Yeah.
But now this is gonna, maybe some of this will resonate when that's happening.
Yeah.
It's good. I feel like I got to go back and define for myself a lot of the Sanskrit names that were referenced in what you just read, though. So.
Yeah, and I think Amanda had said maybe we should start translating it when we come across it. I just don't know, like, I feel like sometimes the author does a decent job at coming, like even yesterday when we were talking about the shot karmas, and then she referenced, or he, I don't know if this is a woman or, I don't love reading books like this off my Kindle. I feel like I'm going to need the hard copy, and I rushed to buy it to be able to share it, but then I found a free link, but I think I'm just going to have to buy it.
That's why I bought it too. And I can also, when you're reading, just make notes of the words in the margins that I need to look up.
Yeah, or just when you do that, if you just want to bring it up now, because I don't know every Sanskrit word by heart either, but Amanda and Micheline, and we can all look it up.
Me? I'm terrible. I was going to tell Sue. Sue, I'm sorry. I will fail you forever with bringing Sanskrit into class.
Okay.
That was like a major struggle in YTT, Sanskrit sticking. And never
Well,
stopped.
I've been coming to Revolution Yoga since it began, so apparently all is well. For example, I didn't know that Hatha was composed of sun and moon, although I'm sure somebody has said this at least 4 or 5 times to me, at least, because I go to, obviously, Hatha classes, and I didn't know. I mean, it makes sense to me that Hatha, the Ha, sun part, is attached to prana, vitality, and the Tha, moon part, is attached to mental energy and the mental energy of Chitta. And it's very interesting because I think I have a whole lot of cheetah going on, which maybe needs to be toned down somewhat, but or at least it needs to stop a little and make room for other things. I just found that part very interesting, and enlightening. And also, I mean, maybe we went. I know there's a piece in here that talks about, now you may get to a place where you've mastered some things that allow you to do some tricks and some wonderful things, like you can maybe read somebody's mind, or you can maybe levitate, but don't be swamped and don't be trapped, and don't end up in the dead end of the tricks, because that's not the purpose of all of this. And it repeats it here. And so for me, you guys have read a lot of this stuff already. I haven't. So this is, after going through reading the sutras, for me, having this stuff come up again emphasizes it, and it's very useful.
I totally agree, Sue, and I feel like I'm with you. Like, I haven't read a ton of these books, and I love that we went from the sutras into this book. It was like such a nice transition for me.
Yeah.
And the other book I read speaks a lot on those like the clairvoyance and all those things, the tricks of yoga. So I'm glad we didn't jump. Like, we weren't meant to read that book now. Like, this was a good transition. I think I just love it.
This is definitely much easier to read.
Yeah.
than-
Yeah.
I can never remember the name of that book, but the 14 stories.
I mean, it's just a totally different topic, but I feel like this is giving us more background information, and I love that it's giving us like these. I agree with you. Like, I love this, the way he story tells. The author story tells.
I think this would be a nice addition, not to have YTTs read during YTT, because there's already an overload, but a suggestion to get to read after once they're done.
It is. It's on the optional reading.
Oh, it is on the optional. See, I don't
There,
remember.
and I was like, oh my God, that looks scary. No.
Well, if I had done the initial 200-hour yoga teacher training, and I was signing up to go into 500-hour, this would be the kind of thing that I would want to read first in 500-hour.
Yeah. Or before even.
Because it's brings you back to basics. Because just when you go through an intro course, it's one thing that's always struck me is that you think you've got it, but you really don't have a really firm handle on the basics until you think about it and study it again. And this kind of delves down and explains it very clearly. And so this would be something that I would want to read, you're right, after yoga teacher training, maybe at the beginning of the 500-hour thing.
And I think learning the stories for me of these gurus or people or whatever they are is helpful in learning the Sanskrit names, like why they decided to call, like fish pose is like that is the name of this guy that they're talking about, Matsyendrana pose, asana, whatever, Matsyendrana. I have to go get it.
Matsyendrasana, I think.
Matsyendrasana. Huh.
So that's now like it's like if I remember like the lord, I don't remember if he was a lord or not. I have to go back and read it. But when I'm reading out loud, it doesn't stick in my brain as much. So sometimes I have to go backwards. But that, like, then I remember, oh, that's fish pose because he was the fish guy. Like in the story, the Ramayana story, which I absolutely love. It's like a yoga fairy tale. I'll never forget the name for split pose because the monkey is Hanumanasana and he's like leaping across. So like once I start learning the stories of why they start naming the poses, maybe, I don't know, we'll see.
Damn, I had such a hard time with that book.
With Ramayana?
Yeah, in YTT. I read it after and I was fine, but I went into I don't know, I think it was like the whole box of being in of growing up in a religion, like my brain just could not, nothing. Everything was just, what? It was like an overload of trying to understand, and I just could like, I could not, my brain could not even decipher. I couldn't even think of it as fairy tales. It was just like gibberish in my head that I could not process.
I call that the yoga fairy tale book.
Afterwards, I loved it.
Yeah. It's
But-
short. It's short too. It's like this little short book. You could read it in like one sitting.
One day.
They sound more like fables than fairy tales, but
Yeah.
am I wrong? Are they more like fairy tales?
No, I have no idea. I don't even know the difference between. Is fable more like a religious thing? I don't know.
To,
Pam, can you send me the name of the book? Can you text me?
Yeah, I'll text it to you.
That short one, because for me this is all completely new. I'm like beginner, so
Yeah.
it's really hard.
Amanda, I didn't hear what you said.
Some people argue that the Vaishnavas and Krishna argue that it's actually history.
Oh, so
Other people argue that it's like happening in another dimension. Other people say that that's a fable or story. So it depends on what language you come from.
did you guys hear her?
not really, no.
In the saying with Ramayama, it's some depending which lineage you follow. Some people say it's actually history, and some people say it's another dimension and that it's happening now. And some people say that it's a complete like fairy tale or fable. So I don't know which one I believe it is. It just reads that way to me. It just
Well, all sorts of cultures have fables which are used, especially pre-literacy, pre-writing. They were used to help people understand their history, and it wasn't a one-to-one statement of this happened and this happened and this happened. It wasn't like an oral videotape of history. It was more stories that said all these things happened and that's why we're here today. So as a result, the stories morphed over time, and because that's why we're here today changes all the time, and people need different things to understand why we are here today. So if you picture, suppose climate change translates into real devastation and we lose all concept of reading and writing, there will be stories about the things that happened prior to the Great Collapse. Well, I know this is all very grim, but there will be stories, that will be passed down from generation to generation about the Great Collapse and what happened before it. And those stories will slightly morph with each generation, depending on what the listening generation needs at the time. And because they're not told word for word.
No.
Generally. And so the question isn't what was the truth. The question is, what helps us to live now? What helps us to survive now? And what helps us to understand now? And that's my understanding of fables. I love fables and stories like that.
So I kept thinking while you're talking, can you imagine the story of 2020 being told in pictures?
Yeah. Or being acted out in dance and music.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 8:11, guys.
I think
Oh,
it
okay.
would be beautiful. I think it would be beautiful.
That'd be a lot of strong people emerging at the end because we have to, otherwise we would not be telling the story, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna move us. I'm gonna move us into breath. But I was talking to Jen yesterday from Rev, and I don't think the worst has come yet. I mean, we still got a long winter of isolation ahead and an election. So be prepared.
Ay.
On that note.
Yep. So I think that it's important that we take this time in the morning to, and I actually watched Care Bears yesterday on Netflix, and it was the cutest thing ever, and I'm gonna watch the whole series. So imagining yourself from your belly or your heart and radiating out hope and love into this crazy world. So finding a nice, long, tall spine. Taking 3 breaths in through the nose and 3 breaths out through the nose. Checking in with the breath. Trying to just watch the thoughts and not engage with them. If you can begin to lengthen the breath in, filling up the low belly. And then slowly watching the breath move up the spine and out through the nose. Taking these nice long deep breaths as we begin alternate nostril breathing. Closing right nostril with right thumb. Inhaling through left. Close left with your right ring finger. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. 3 more rounds just like that on your own breath. Taking your time to finish, but exhaling out through your left nostril. We'll move into our 20-minute meditation. If you still need more rounds of alternate nostril breathing, you can take it. And setting an intention for your meditation, possibly dedicating it to somebody or something. Setting the timer. Bringing hands together in front of your heart. Namaste. Have a beautiful rainy day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
You
Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Bye, Pam. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Pam,
Pam,
quick
if you
question.
remember, just send me the name of that short little book.
Yep, I will.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Pam. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Pam, you're good opening tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'll be in the car. And then Monday, Tuesday, we're going camping Sunday into Tuesday.
Okay.
So
can-
Monday, Tuesday, I'm not around either.
Okay, I think I can open. And I can read. Sue, if you want to read one day, you don't have to, but I
Oh,
can.
I like reading, especially this thing. It's kind of, there's something that reminds me about reading a good book to my kids when they were younger. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Good, it's good. So you choose and just let me know, okay?
Okay. Perfect.
Thank
Okay,
you,
sounds good.
guys.
Have a good day, guys.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye, Amanda.